Speaker, we received an apology from Mr. SABC of the NFP.
That apology is noted. Any other?
Speaker, an apology. Good morning, everybody, from Honorable
Morning,
Ngwezi. Honorable Ngwezi. He's had a bereavement.
Honorable Ngwezi, we note that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I then quickly put us to the second item, consideration of the agenda? Is it in order? I have no comment. I take Ndade Singh proposes. Do I have a seconder?
Swart, second.
Ndade Swart seconds. Thank you very much. We go into our third item is consideration of our minutes of the 28th of May. Please take us through page 1. Honorable members, are there any comments for corrections? None. Page 2. Any comments for page 2? None. Page 3. Any comment? None. Page 4. None. Page 5. Page 6. And page 7. There is a minute, honorable members. Do the minutes reflect our discussions?
Speaker?
Yes, Speaker.
I had two voices, I'm not sure who.
Mkalipi
And me.
Mem Kalipi, Me Majudina, in that order. Mem Kalipi.
Speaker, there was an issue regards to SAPS in the precinct. I don't see it on the minute.
In last week's meeting?
Yes.
I don't recall that. Member Jodina, while Bontati Klaso get ready to respond to that. Member Jodina?
Thank you very much, Speaker, and good morning to colleagues. I move for the adoption of minutes. In terms of the issue of subs, it may happen that Honorable Mkalipi is making a mistake. That matter was discussed and exhausted in the Chief Whips Forum in the past 2 meetings. Thank you.
Speaker, can I come in?
Yes, come in, ma'am, but I don't recall us discussing in the last meeting. Please come in.
Speaker, before you wrap up the meeting last week, after Honorable Ntlangwini spoke about the staff members in the parliament, I came in, I even apologized to you. I said, I'm very sorry because you're wrapping up the meeting, but I just want to concur on the issue of subs and the protection services when Ma'am Ntlangwini was raising it, Speaker.
Oh, that matter was raised in relation with the people who had been said to have contracted the coronavirus.
Yes,
Is that
quite correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yes, I think we did this. We also said that we should not, probably in the capturing. Are you looking at the minute?
Yes, Speaker.
In that paragraph, it doesn't capture it because we deliberately did not refer only to staff members, because we were made also aware that even amongst the staff members of Parliament, there were people.
Yes, Madam Speaker, just the paragraph following, that is where Madam Speaker made that summary. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so does that not satisfy you, Mayor Hlengiwe Mkalipi?
No, it's fine, Speaker. It's fine.
Thank you very much. There was a proposal to adopt the minute by the Chief Whip of the Majority Party. Do I have a seconder?
Seconded by Mazzoni.
Mazzoni, thank you very much. Seconded. We go to matters arising. Matters arising. Anybody?
Honourable Speaker.
And that is in.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the matter of the agreement that we had last week on the Section 25 would probably come a little later. I don't know if Mr. Kasho can advise on that, because that's one matter that I picked up for now. Thank you.
Okay. It will probably come a little bit later. Ndade Kasho, can you advise that we leave it for a later discussion?
Yes, ma'am. When we get to the program,
okay,
we deal with the matter. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable members, any other matter arising? None?
Yes, Speaker.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Speaker. Yes, thank you very much,
please.
Speaker. On page 3, the issue of a National Youth Development Agency, according to the minutes, the committee was going to revise the program that is scheduled to take the process forward. Is there any update, or we should wait for the committee section to report?
Ndate Frolik, is there any update?
Honourable Speaker, can my line is very bad. Can the question just be repeated, please?
May Majodina please repeat yourself?
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, my question is on page 3 of minutes, where it was captured that the Portfolio Committee on Women, Children and Youth will revise the process on NYTA. My question is, I want to know whether we have received that revised, updated program to cater for NYTA processes.
No, thank you, Honourable Chief Whip. No, we have not received the program yet. They're still working on it and they're busy with consultations. So as soon as the information is received, we'll update it under the committee program, Chief Whip, and we'll send a copy to your office as well.
Thank you. Honourable members, any other matter arising? None? Ndade Julius, you hesitating? Okay, can we move? If there is no other comment on that item of matters arising, we move on to committee section reports. Committee section, I hope you're ready.
Good morning, Honorable Madam Speaker, honorable members and colleagues. Our presentation will start from slide number 2, which is a summary of the matters before the committees. I will go straight to slide number 9, where there are updates. Slide number 9 is a matter before the Standing Committee on Finance. The committee will revise its program to schedule further activities. Slide number 16. Slide number 16, it is a matter or a bill before PC on Agriculture, Reform and Rural Development. The committee will also reschedule the activities. Slide number 17. Slide number 17 is a bill before COCTA. Sorry, Madam Speaker, it does not look like the slide is visible on my side. Slide number 16. I've dealt with that one. Slide number 17. It is a bill before COCTA. The committee is scheduling further deliberations on the 23rd of June. Slide number 19. Slide number 19. It's a bill before Standing Committee on Finance. The update here is that the bill has been tagged as a Section 76 bill. Slide number 23. The committee planned to have deliberations on the 3rd of June, but the meeting has been postponed. Slide number 24. It is a bill before PC on transport. The committee has scheduled briefings on the 9th of June. Slide number 25. It is also a bill before PC on transport. It is a new referral. The committee is still to schedule for the activities. Slide number 26. It is also a new referral to PC on transport. The committee will schedule activities. Slide number 28. Just for update, Madam Speaker, that having passed the Division of Revenue bill by NCOP, the Standing Committee on Appropriation held briefings yesterday on appropriation bill, and tomorrow the committee is going to have the public hearings. By the 9th of June, the report will be before the committee for consideration. At number 31, the treaty before PC on justice and correctional services has been finalized. Slide number 32 is also a treaty before PC on justice and correctional services. It has been finalized. Slide number 33, it is a matter of firearms amnesty in terms of Section 139 before police. The department will request for an extension for about 6 months and thereafter submit revised notice for referral to the committee. Slide number 34. It is a treaty before PC on international relations and cooperation. The committee has scheduled the deliberations and consideration of the report on the 10th of June. Slide number 36. It is a statutory appointment before the PC on communications. The deliberations were scheduled for the 29th of May. The further activities will be scheduled. Slide number 38. PC on mineral has a treaty before it. The deliberations were scheduled for the 3rd of June, but the meeting has been postponed. 40. It is a matter before women, youth, and people with disability. The committee has been waiting for legal advice. It looks like now the committee is ready to revise its program to schedule further activities. On this matter, what I can explain from administration section is that because of the number of applications received, the section is busy downloading those applications so that they can be properly summarized and be ready for presentation before the committee. Slide number 42. It is a petition before PC on COCTA. The committee is planned for consideration on the 3rd of June, which was yesterday at the time of sending this report. Also before COCTA, it is a petition that was also due for consideration on the 3rd of June before the committee. slide number 44. It is also a petition before PC on Cocta, which was also due for consideration on the 3rd of June. This concludes our presentation. Honorable Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, the floor is open.
Speaker, it's Honorable Kalipi.
Honorable Mkalipi, Honorable Mazoni, Honorable Majodina.
Speaker, if I can get a clarity on page 38 regards to communication. I didn't hear the good advocate explanation on communication.
On page you are not clear, Mem Kalipe. Mem Kalipe, we can't hear you properly.
Yes. It's a network, the speaker, but it's page 38 on communication.
Okay. Mayor Mazoni?
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, I have it on a very different authority of what's going on in the committee regarding the amnesty of firearms. So I wonder if the committee section could just elaborate slightly more on what is happening with the amnesty of firearms, because there is a lot of confusion regarding whether amnesty has been extended during the period of lockdown or not. And there are conflicting messages, and I'm certainly getting conflicting messages from the members of my committee. So if we could just ask the committee section to revisit that with us and go through it in a little bit more detail. And then also with the petitions, Madam Speaker, I noted that a petition from Desiree van der Walt was handed in from a community in Limpopo. It was handed in the digital format that was requested, obviously, because we were going through lockdown at the time, and I don't see that petition appearing anywhere. So I would just like to know, has that petition in fact been received, and will it receive the attention that the other petitions are receiving? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Member Jodina?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let's welcome this report. Mine is on treaties that I want to make an appeal that let's request IR as well. That unit must assist in terms of identifying some of the conventions that have not been ratified. It is quite embarrassing when you attend these fora that we participate in. You are told that your country has not ratified A, B, and C. So I want just to make that a particular request that let's also look at that. 2, on NYDA. On NYDA, currently there is no board, and we know that by the time we started on lockdown, already the processes were in motion. Can I request that we must have at least a time frame to deal with the NYDA processes to avoid what is happening now, that there is no board in place? Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Is the Ndati Julius, was your hand up?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, thank you, Speaker. I'm partly covered by Honorable Mazoni, but also I note that petitions are placed on the program and then postponed. It's another date is set. These petitions have now been postponed for 4 times by this committee. Can we get specific challenge? What are the causes of these postponements? Because it's now set again for the 3rd of June. We don't know whether it took place yesterday. Because it's 3 June. So it's just putting a date on there and just postponing it as they please. So can we get the reasons for these challenges? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Can we get responses in Data Class on Data Frolic?
Madam Speaker, I will ask the acting committee manager to respond first to the matter around what is happening in communications. I couldn't hear the Honourable Makalipi very clearly, but it had to do with communications. And then the matter, the acting manager can also clarify that. is he said as he sent out this document last night, that committee was busy meeting. Yesterday was the 3rd, dealing with a petition. So I don't know if he has received any new information, because I certainly have not received information. And then the NYDA, we will come back, as I indicated earlier, so that a detailed report can be given around the processes to be followed around the NYDA. As far as international agreements and treaties are concerned, Speaker, it gets referred to the committee once the Department, International Relations and Trade and Industry usually have dealt with the work there, and once they're ready, it comes to Parliament and it gets referred to the committee. So obviously, as judging from what the Chief Whip has said, there seems to be a problem in terms of some of these international agreements and treaties, and we can only from Parliament side find out from the relevant departments which treaties and agreements are they sitting on and not processing. It's certainly not in front of the committees.
Okay.
Madam Speaker.
Ndate Tau or Ndate Kaso, yes.
Madam Speaker, I would like to respond on the issue of the amnesty to indicate that yesterday the Office of the Speaker has received a letter from the Minister which withdraws the initial notice that was submitted about a week or two ago, and this notice must still be ATC'd and made available to the members. In essence, what this notice is saying is that the period during which persons may apply for amnesty will now commence on the 1st of August 2020 until 31st of January 2021. But this correspondence, with the permission of the Speaker, will be made available to the honorable members in the course of the day.
Members only, are you satisfied with that response? Does it clarify?
Madam Speaker, it does clarify to a point, but we must make it very clear then at the moment there is no amnesty, because what happened was, in terms of Section 139 of the amnesty bill, it doesn't allow for an extension. So what the committee was doing was actually not allowed. So there had to be a new process. And that new process required the certificate that Mr. Kaso is referring to now. So I'm presuming that the date of the 1st of June, which the committee sort of wanted the process to be extended by, I'm assuming that period between the 1st of June and the 1st of August is going to be a grace period. And then the 1st of August, that certificate kicks in and the amnesty period then continues until the end of January 2021.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that come back onto the responses on matters on page 38.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On this slide, what is happening is the committee was dealing with the filling of vacancies. And on the 27th of May...
On communications.
Yes, on communications.
You are to communications.
Yes, I'm speaking about communications. The committee received a letter of resignation which was referred. Now, what the committee did was to schedule the activities for the 29th of May, and indeed the committee did consider to fill this position, but the position, the situation now is, because the committee had already submitted a report, the committee is now seeking legal opinion as to whether this new position can be filled using the very same applications that were received. That is where the matter is. And with regard...
Felipe, does that clarify you?
Yes, Speaker. Yes, a lot.
Okay. Continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. With regard to the petitions before COCTA, I have indicated in my presentation that at the time of preparing the report, the meetings were going on. I can confirm that these petitions were dealt with yesterday. And the further explanation is, as for the Ekurhuleni petition, the committee will still need to continue with it. And on NYDA, the committee is planning to deal with the shortlisting, as I indicated earlier on, that because of the number of applications received, the staff is now busy downloading the applications so that summaries can be made before the committee can start with the shortlisting. As I speak now, we have applied for permits so that the relevant staff members can have time to go to Parliament precincts and do that, because it will also involve a lot of printing. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. As regards to the petitions, I have a problem. I have a problem because petitions come in, they stay. Some of them get lost in the corridors of Parliament. And I think that we need to do something about the petitions. Secondly, we have to respond as quickly as we can to petitions. Because I think when people send petitions to Parliament, it is because they have tried everything else. So when Parliament does not take petitions seriously, I have a massive problem. So maybe in the Castle, we need to look at how we deal with petitions. I know in the last 5 years in the NCOP, I even offered to be chairperson of the Petitions Committee because I really disagree with the way we are just relaxed and just taking our paces on matters of petitions. So I do have a problem there. So what you are essentially saying is that the Committee on Petitions is still to report, and therefore at the next meeting we shall have the reports published and we shall know what the end result is, and we shall have responded to the people who petitioned Parliament. As to the NYDA, you say that the committee section is still downloading and summarizing. Now, that downloading and summarizing must not sanitize or in any way take away the essence of the information that comes out of the individuals who are applying. In other words, the committee can get summarized versions, but they must have full access to all the documents that come out of the individuals who have submitted their applications. That is the job of the committee. The committee must be able to go through. On the issue of the treaties, yes, I see the point that is made by Mayor Majudina. But in fact, every portfolio committee must be able to monitor their portfolio and their own treaty and to have a say on the treaties. It is not just the job of international relations. It would be very difficult, for instance, for your international committee to understand and to say it ratifies on behalf of the Joint Standing Committee on Defense, treaties on nuclear and treaties on whatever. So maybe we need to get back to the issue of treaties and how Parliament treats treaties, because the portfolio committee, the Joint Standing Committee, this select committee is responsible. It might be international, but it is the international side of their staff. What we need to do is to have in Ndati Castle, Medjawa, an administration errats, the research component of Parliament, it keeps up to date and it keeps advising. You also need to have your legal department that is on their toes, because Because part of the delays on the ratification, once they are within Parliament, is understanding and the impact legally of things on South Africa and what we might be having on our table. So for me, there is a lot of restructuring that we need to do. And COVID kind of disturbed us because some of us still want to get into the nub of things and just look and familiarize ourselves on how things are done, so that we don't get into international platforms and find that we are lagging behind as South Africa. And we lag behind because we do not know. And then what we need to do is also identify, Mema Jodina, all those treaties, so that we then go and address those issues with the responsible members of the executive. They must tell us why they have not yet put the treaties into the channel of Parliament so that they can be ratified, so that we don't always take the beating on behalf of the executive, but we don't beat them unless we understand what their blockages are all about. So, is there any other matter, Honorables?
Sorry. Honorable Speaker, my hand was up. I think this gadget doesn't fully raise my hand. Is Honorable?
Yeah, yes. I must tell you, this little gadget of mine also doesn't show hands. So there's a problem both sides, my sister. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, my apologies for being late. I struggled to log in as well this morning. But however, Honorable Speaker, on the NYDA process, that process can be handled online, Speaker, the interviews. So I want to raise that point, that process must not be put under the cracks. Let the interviews continue online, Honorable Speaker. They can email each other the summary of the interviews and so forth and the CVs. So that process can be handled fully online. And also when you want to also check if somebody to lead the NYDA, you will also see that component that they will be able to access things online as well, Honorable Speaker. So I don't think that process must be put on hold. Let's do it online, and the committee can also do it, the interviews online, so that the NYDA have a board within the next month or two, because to let them run just loose like this will also have an implication on a certain level of accountability, Honorable Speaker. So I think some of these interviews, we can have them fully fleshed online. If we are sort of delaying of coming to Parliament, you don't need to be in Cape Town to conduct these interviews, Honorable Speaker. That is my submission. Thank you, Speaker.
No, I agree with you. All I'm saying is that members in that interviewing panel must have access to every information around every candidate. That they must not have over-summarized information which might compromise others and get us into legal tangles. But the committees know that they can do their work online, on virtual systems and platforms. Is there any other matter arising, honorable members?
Madam Speaker, Steve.
Ndate Swart, please.
I just wanted to support you on the issue of the international treaties and ask the legal department just to look at section 231 of the Constitution. The challenge that I have when treaties come for extradition and mutual legal assistance to the Justice Portfolio Committee is that we as Parliament need to ratify, agree in terms of 231(2) must be approved by a resolution in both the NA and the NTOP. But it is very little that we can do to change the treaty because it has already been signed by the executive. So we need to look at what is the role of Parliament should you disagree with a clause in the treaty. That treaty has already been signed by the executive. And I would like us to look into, are we just then rubber stamping? That has always been my experience. Yeah. So
no,
obviously,
once it has been signed, but has not been ratified by both houses, it cannot be continued with. The executive can sign, but before the two houses have ratified, There's no standing.
Yes, Speaker, I'm just saying the role of Parliament then, should Parliament disagree with a clause in that treaty, then it's already been signed. But I think that is something for a separate discussion. We can look into that from a legal perspective.
No, that is what. Should Parliament, in either or both houses, have issues that they refuse to move on, the executive can't continue with the treaty.
I agree with that.
That is my understanding. So if Parliament simply says, okay, they have signed, therefore, that is Parliament's business in not exercising their powers. But if Parliament goes through treaties and say, honestly, on this particular line, we cannot live with this little clause, therefore, the executive's hands are then tied.
I agree.
That's always been my understanding of the process of Parliament. So Parliament, we must free ourselves.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Is there any other matter, honourable members, on matters arising? None? Can we proceed? We proceed, Ndate Tau, to the Bill's office. Thank you, Ndate Tau. Bill's office, Ndate Belote.
Good morning, Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity. There's 2 points I'd like to stress this morning. Firstly, and Advocate Tau touched on it, the Minister of Transport introduced 2 bills last Friday, 29 Appeal Tribunal Bill.
Is very bad. Your connection is very bad, Ndate Bell.
Is that better, Madam Speaker?
It is better now.
Okay, the National Road Traffic Amendment Bill has been drafted to give effect to some of the principal strategies contained in the National Road Safety Strategy of 2006. Then secondly, the President assented to 3 bills on 26 May, the Hydrographic Bill, the Independent Police Investigative Directorate Bill, and the Promotion of Access to Information Bill. And what's interesting about these 3 is that the latter 2 were bills initiated in portfolio committees of the National Assembly in 2018. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The floor is open, honourable members. Ndate Mulder, you are absolutely looking too quiet today. What's wrong?
I think you will hear more of me just now, ma'am.
Okay. Ndate Singh, you have anything to add? No questions, members. We accept.
No, fine, ma'am. Fine, thank you.
The report from Ndate Bell.
Yes.
Ndate Bell, we therefore, honourable members, move on to item 7, the draft program. Member Jackie, you have a voice today.
Honourable Speaker, thank you, and just apologies about what happened last week. It wasn't really my fault. With the program on the screen, now on Wednesday the 10th, which is week number 7, excuse me, which we are on Thursday the 4th, which is week 16. To follow will be caucuses by political parties. There are political parties that are actually also meeting from 9 lately. So I think we will continue. We will begin to register it as such as we continue. Tomorrow, Friday, the 5th of June, is committees. Week 17. Can you put week 17 on the screen? Monday, the 8th of June is constituency day. And then Tuesday, the 9th of June, between 10 and 12:45 is committees. And at 14 hours, there will be plenary for business as listed, which is mainly the bills, the 3 bills that will go through Parliament, the Social Assistance Bill, the Sexual Offences and Related Matters Bill, and the Customary Marriages Bill, including a statutory appointment for ICASA and the budget reports. Wednesday, the 10th of June, at 10 o'clock, there will be Chief Whip's Forum. There will also be committees on Wednesday, the 10th of June. Thursday, the 11th of June, 8:30 will be programming committee meeting between 10 and 13 hours. It will be committees. Friday, the 12th of June, at 10 o'clock, there will be plenary that will be looking at the appropriations bill. Week 18, Monday, the 15th of June is constituency day. Tuesday, the 16th of June is a holiday. Wednesday, the 17th of June, between 10 and 12:45, we'll have committees. At 10 o'clock, there will be Chief Whip's Forum. Between 15 hours and 16 hours 30, there will be a debate on Youth Day. Thursday, the 18th of June, 8:30, there'll be programming committee meeting at 10 o'clock. Like I said, it will be 10 and 9. There'll be caucus by political parties, and then there will be plenary at 14 hours that will stretch up to 17 hours 45, and the main business of the day will be questions to the president. Friday, the 19th of June, will be committees. Week 19, Monday, the 22nd of June is constituency day. Tuesday, the 23rd of June, between 10 and 12:45 is committees at 14 hours. There'll be plenary that will stretch up to 17 hours. And the main business of the day will be questions for cluster 5. Wednesday, the 24th of June, between 9 and 12:45 will be committees. At 10 o'clock, there'll be Chief Whip's Forum. At 15 hours, there'll be plenary for special adjustment budget. Thursday, the 25th of June, 8:30, there'll be programming committee meeting, and then caucus will follow by political parties, and then between 14 hours and 17 hours 30, there'll be plenary, with the main business of the day being questions to the Deputy President. Friday, the 26th of June, will be there will be Youth Parliament. The day earmarked for Youth Parliament is a proposal. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, ma'am. Honourable members, the floor is open.
Swart.
Ndate Swart. Ndate Julius.
Honourable Hlangweni.
Nhlangweni. Anybody else? Ndate Mulder. Ndate Mulder, I've noted you. Can we start off?
Deputy Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Medlakude. Can we start with Ndate Singh?
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, colleagues. Madam Speaker, I have a number of queries related to the programme, but I was going to suggest that yesterday we had a discussion on some of these items, and perhaps if Mr. Kasu is allowed to make an input on other items, on motions and the modalities of how the sittings are going to be conducted, we could have a fuller discussion arising from that input. But if that is not agreed to, then I will continue with my queries that I have on the program. Thank you.
Okay.
So I'll wait for the
Kasu,
response.
can you come in? Dr. Kasu, can you come in?
Yes, Madam Speaker. I will start with the issue of the motions for next week. That there needs to be a motion to establish an ad hoc committee on the AG, appointment of the AG. That will be coming through on Tuesday. We also need a motion that will regularize the arrangement of combining clusters when necessary, so that going forward we know that the rules support that arrangement. There was also a discussion on a motion to resuscitate the committee on Section 25 of the Constitution. I understand there's still going to be a discussion on that. On the two motions that I mentioned, there is agreement that we go ahead with those motions, but on the third one, the parties agreed that they would discuss it today. Now, in terms of next week again, Madam Speaker, we are working on the basis. There's a recommendation, as I understand, from the Chief Whips Forum that the sitting be up to 100 members next week. Of course, we're continuing with a hybrid arrangement of the sittings. We have shared with the honorable members the proposed time allocation for the 12th of June, which is the budget day. And it seems there is agreement because there was no objection to the times that have been proposed, for the first reading debate being 90 minutes and for the declarations of vote being 200 minutes. Madam Speaker, obviously on Tuesday there's a need for decisions to be taken. Our preference and recommendation would have been that we adopt the same approach we employed for the Division of Revenue Bill, that parties, when they disagree with a question, they register their objections. However, we are aware that parties have the right to insist on a division. The virtual platform does not as yet have an electronic voting system that is able to tie a member's name to their vote, and that process is being attended to. And therefore, the rules on virtual sittings give three options that there could be, members could indicate their position by voice, members could indicate their positions electronically, which is not available at the moment, or you could have the whips indicating how the members of their parties are voting. Of course, that will be verified with the members. When that happens, the members would have been counted, and the presiding officer would be able to give the members an opportunity to say, no, we don't agree with my whip, or I agree with my whip. So that is, in summary, Madam Speaker, what I can say about next week. But we will be sending out a note to all the parties in terms of what we need from the parties. The names of members will be attending the hybrid sitting on Tuesday and on Friday. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Justin, do you want to come back now? Yes,
thank you. I think that will help the discussions moving forward. Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Kasa, for that information. Honourable Speaker, from our side, we don't have any problem with the motions that scheduled on the ad hoc of the AG and the combining of clusters. We have a particular problem on the Section 25 thumbs up date that was proposed yesterday at the Chief Whips Forum, but perhaps we'll hear more today before I come back on that issue. Then on the question of the time allocations, I see, Honourable Kasa, if you can clarify, for Tuesday there are these reports and these debates. Are there going to be declarations that are going to be allowed? How many minutes will those declarations be? So that's something that I need to know for the 9th of June. And obviously we'll finalize the methodology for divisions as we go along. When it comes to the 9th and the 12th of June, Honourable Speaker, through you, I just want Honourable Frolick to note that committees have also been scheduled, clashing during those times for NA committees. Some end at 3 o'clock on the 9th of June, which will be difficult for members to connect up to the plenary. And on the 12th of June, I see there are committees scheduled during the same time when we are dealing with the budgets. so that issue can be looked at. As I say, Honourable Speaker, I will come back on the question of the Section 25 motion a little later. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The Honourable Swart.
Thank you, Speaker.
You are
thank
noted, Honourable Mazoni.
Can I just thank, yes, can you hear me, Speaker?
Yes, we can.
I just want to appreciate the input from Mr. Carter, because that helps me. Just on next Tuesday, there are a number of justice bills, and if my recollection is correct, they were quite technical. So maybe we could clarify from the Justice Chair whether there's a need for lengthy debates or whether declarations could just be had on that, considering they are mainly technical bills. Then, Speaker, we might need to consider your ruling again when it comes to questions to the cluster, the President and the Deputy President. I presume we will follow the same process, allowing for consideration if we have a hybrid model, which we presume we will, that again we will then request follow-up questions as we did in the past. If you could give us some clarification on that. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. I take it that Ndate Frolik, you are noting. I move on to Ndate Julius.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want clarity on the 23rd of June, and perhaps we can discuss that one also. Cluster 5, questions to Cluster 5. I see that it's still preliminary. Can we quickly discuss that one also? And then on the program, I see the third term starts on the 28th of July. If you look at it, I just want to know whether that will be confirmed, because previously we said that we might extend the second term. And on the framework, it's still not changed, and we're sending this out to members to note and to plan all the activities. Can we just confirm on the 28th of July to be the start of the third term as on the framework currently? Then, Speaker, as previously discussed, and I'm referring to the consultation on the dates for the President and the Deputy President to answer oral questions in the House. We are now nearing the end of the term, and thank you for the availability of the President and Deputy President this term. But I just need to confirm whether, based on our previous discussions, I think 2 weeks back, for next term, we start communicating possible dates for the Deputy President and the President to answer questions in the House, and whether that will, I didn't get confirmation, Speaker. You said it's the responsibility of your office, and I ask that it be given to us in writing, this communication. I don't know whether you can recall. Will we get it in writing, and did your office make the necessary communication with the Deputy President and the President for oral questions for the third term? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Ntlangwini.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Mine is also in conjunction with the Deputy President and the President Speaker. I think going forward, Speaker, I think
Ntlangwini, we've lost you. Ntlangwini, we have lost you.
It won't be such a bad thing.
Ntlangwini.
We do get just a simple letter that it went from. Do you hear me? Hello?
We can't hear you.
Hear me now?
Try again. Ntlangwini. Have we lost her completely now?
Do you hear me now, Speaker?
You're still very bad. Try. Hello. Okay. Mentlangwini is having problems. We'll try her later. Can we move on to Ntate Mulder?
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Thank you for the program, colleagues. I've got a few points. The first one is with regard to the first proposed two motions. We would support those two motions, and I would like to come back later on section 5 if we discuss that. Then, Speaker, with regard to the session on Tuesday, I think there's a lot of potential for chaos on Tuesday if we do not know exactly what's going to happen. If that could be clarified in terms of speaking times, in terms of declarations, in terms of the whole process. And then lastly, Speaker, with regard to...
Can you hear me now?
Mentlangwini, we've moved on. We can't hear you. Please, we'll try you later. We now have to move on with another member who is on the floor. Ntate Mulder?
Thank you, ma'am. With regard to the questions to both the President and the Deputy President, is there perhaps an indication at this stage if both of them would be in the House physically, or will they participate virtually, if that is known? Please, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Dlakude. Mayor Dlakude.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me take this opportunity to thank Mr. Kaso for his presentation and the presentation of this program. Honorable Speaker, we support the presentation by Mr. Kaso that names must be submitted to the NAE table for those who will be attending the hybrid sitting, and also that the President and Deputy President will respond to questions, given that we are operating we will be operating in hybrid and also in virtual system, in virtual platform. We also support, Honorable Speaker, the Youth Day debate on the 17th of June, and also we support the Youth Parliament on the 26th of June. Then on the issue of re-establishing the ad hoc committee, we support the presentation made by Mr. Kaso. So that's where we stand, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Mazoni.
Thank you very much indeed, Speaker. Speaker, I think that, and I said this in the Chief Whips Forum yesterday, it's going to become more and more important for Chief Whips to take the leading role in assisting the table staff and the presiding officers to ensure the smooth running of Parliament. So I think that when we deal with our first set of motions as we go through, the speaking table must have adequate time to have the names of the members who are giving the motions, and also an indication of whether they will be in the House or whether they'll be joining via the Zoom platform. Then the sitting of up to 100 members, I'd just like to know from Mr. Kaso, if he can, the breakdown of how many members that allows each one of us. The DA had 20 members in the last sitting because other parties didn't take up their full quota, and we can have a lot more members. So I just want to make sure that we know how many members the DA would be allowed to have in those particular sittings. Then in terms of the declarations that we make in the House, the 200 minutes, I assume that we will get the full breakdown of the time allocations. And I apologize in advance if it was sent to me and I didn't receive it. For some reason, I didn't receive any of Andrew's emails, and he is kindly busy resending them to me as we speak. So I just want to make sure that we are getting the breakdown of the time for the declarations. And then, Speaker, given the fact that the virtual platform hasn't made allowances yet for voting, I've worked on this virtual platform with the voting system in place, and I know that it does take a while. And I do know that the guidelines of Parliament allow for Chief Whips to carry the vote of their particular party. So in a case of an emergency, for example, Chief Whips could gather in the Houses of Parliament, and they would carry the mandate of their party to vote in a physical sitting. So I would strongly urge that, so that we don't have chaos and confusion and people unmuting and muting and all of that kind of stuff, I would suggest that the chief whips be given the mandate of their party when a declaration is called, and the chief whips must then also declare whether a member of their caucus does not agree with the division. So in other words, if Mr. XY from the ANC did not agree with the declaration made by the Honourable Chief Whip of the Majority Party, then she would say, I carry the mandate of my party in this division that everyone agrees except member XY. And I think that chief whips are going to, we are held accountable to tell the truth on behalf of our parties. And if any of us didn't carry the correct mandate or the correct message through of our party, we would certainly be held to account. And then, Speaker, the Honourable Deputy Chief Whip of the Majority Party raised the Section 25 committee and said that she is in agreement with the motion to resuscitate it. I would like to place on record now, while I have the opportunity, that the DA does not at this point approve with a date being set, which I believe is the end of October, for the resuscitation of the committee. It is my understanding that the very reason the committee did the deliberations that it had the deliberations that it did was because we are living in a time where we have absolutely no idea how the coronavirus is going to fare over the winter period and when we're going to reach the peak of the period. And I think that we are creating unnecessary confusion for the people of South Africa by putting a date and then changing a date and putting a date and changing a date. And I think that we should be waiting until we have quite a lot of certainty regarding when this committee can meet properly. There are 2 provinces that are outstanding in terms of public participation, and part of our constitutional mandate is that we adhere to public participation and make sure that the public have their voices heard. And I would therefore like to put on record that the DA is not in favour of the motion to resuscitate the committee yet, and that we wait as a responsible People's Parliament for absolute certainty so that we don't create any more confusion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to try and go back to Mentlangwini. Mentlangwini, are you able to hear us? Mentlangwini? It seems that we have lost Mentlangwini on the platform. Can I then now give over to Dade Kaso, Dade Frolik on the responses?
Yes, Speaker, if I may just briefly respond. We will take into account, of course, the NAPC has now finalized the program for the rest of this term. So committee meetings will follow suit. That's what we usually do. And then in exceptional circumstances, if there's need for a committee to meet during a sitting, then we approach the chief whip of the majority party and inform also other chief whips accordingly. Then, Speaker, the issue that was raised about the letters from His Excellency, the President of the Republic, to your office, and that of the Deputy President to your office, the communication there, we take it in good faith, Speaker, that you come and report to the programming committee that this is the communication and letters that has been received. There's absolutely no reason why those letters that's addressed to you must be circulated now to all political parties. We've never done that in the past, and we believe that when the Speaker table communication from the head of state and the Deputy President, that is the factual information upon which the programming committee can work. So I really don't see why there's reason now to start circulating.
Yeah, I can hear you fully, Speaker.
That's addressed.
Me, Speaker.
Mentlangwini, I'll give you a chance after Dade Frolik. Dade Frolik, continue.
Yes, Speaker, I'm busy concluding to say that there's no reason why the correspondence between the head of state, His Excellency the President, and also the Deputy President must be circulated to all political parties after you have tabled it as received in the NAPC.
Okay, I'm going to try and give Mentlangwini another chance. Mentlangwini? Mentlangwini? Okay. Tata Frolik, are you done?
Yes, I am, Honorable Speaker.
Mentlangwini, ma'am, your connection is very bad. Can you hear us? I don't think she can hear us. We can't hear her. We do understand that she is trying to participate, but the connection is very bad. Dr. Klaso, can you come in?
Yes, Madam Speaker. In relation to the items on the agenda for next week, we recommend that we take declarations and not a debate. The time for declarations on each item is up to 49 minutes. I'm saying up to 49 minutes because parties are not compelled to utilize their time. So we've got 3 bills: social assistance bill, and the sexual offences bill, and the recognition of customary marriages bill. The committee can decide to combine the two, the one from justice, if that is a preference, but those are the 3 bills. And we also have the report of the Rules Committee on virtual sittings. This report, ma'am, has been canvassed extensively in the Chief Whips Forum, in the Rules Committee. I'm not sure if members would still want to declare on that report when it is passed next week in the House. So in terms of whether we do declarations or debate, we recommend declarations of vote. And on the reports on budget votes, we will be doing declarations next Friday when we do the budget. We don't recommend that there be declarations, but it's really still up to the parties and up to the presiding officer to allow or disallow declarations of vote. But we don't recommend on those reports because members will have the opportunity to declare on the budget votes on the 12th of May. In terms of supplementary questions, it is our recommendation still that we take a managed approach in respect of all the questions that are coming up in June: President, Deputy President, and Cluster 5, Economics Cluster. In fact, it is our recommendation, ma'am, that as long as we are doing a hybrid system, we maintain a managed approach to supplementary questions. Honorable Mazone has asked about the breakdown of numbers for if we do up to 100 members. ANC would be 54, DA 19, EFF 11, IFP 4, FF plus 3, ACDP 1, UDM 1, ATM 1, Good 1, NFP 1, AIC 1, Congress of the People 1, Pan-African Congress 1, and Al-Jama 1. Now, last week, not all the parties utilized their slots. Hence, the DA was able to get 20 members to come. We're not sure if members will utilize their slots now, but I take it that members, those who do not utilize their slots, can obviously donate them to the party that has more members to attend the sitting. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm not sure if there's anything that I've left out, but I've attempted to respond to all the issues raised.
Okay. You have tried to attend to all of them, including issues of supplementary questions. I just want to say, Honorable Julius, there is quite a strong office communication between the speakerage and the leader of government business. We communicate, and that is why in the first instance, when a date was put as a proposal, I asked, because I had not received formal communication from the Deputy President. Now, we are going to be in consultation with the President and the Deputy President as to the question dates for the next term. And I think we should be trusted enough to come back to the NAPC and say these dates have been locked in, these are the dates. If there is a deadlock between ourselves and the presidency, we will also not shy away from saying there is a deadlock, we can't get the questions. There is a deliberate thing, there is a deliberate inclusion of the councillors of both the president and the deputy president to be part of the proceedings, the rules, even the chief whips forum, so that at all times the leader of government business is informed, because this is the liaison person between ourselves and the executive on a non-interference thing. When we have deadlocks, it is again between us and the leader of government business who clear the deadlock. And I think we should leave it at that, because I think we might end up wanting to come back to NAPC and to being told how to write letters and I don't think we want to go there, honorable members. I think we must operate on we are all honorable. I take your word when you stand up and you say this matter stands like this, because the rules say I must trust your word. That's why we are called honorable. So I think we must leave it at that. The one issue which we have not had any general and sufficient expression on is the matter of the re-establishment of the Section 25 ad hoc committee. The DA has come out clearly. They say they don't yet support the re-establishment. The ANC has come out to say we support the establishment. Ndate Singh earlier on said, made a reference to a thumb-sucked date, which meant that he has an issue with the date identified. So I'd like us to just come back on this matter. And if we come back on this matter, the first hand I had was Ndate Mulder, Ndate Singh, and I think Ndate Julius. On Section 25, Ndate Julius. Ndate Mulder, can we go on?
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Ndate Julius, I'm noting your hand. Ndate Mulder is on the floor.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, this matter has been discussed both in the Chief Whips Forum, in the Programme Committee, as well as in the Ad Hoc Committee itself. Everybody knew that the deadline was going to expire on the 31st of May. The Ad Hoc Committee met, I'm a member of that committee, we met on Friday the 22nd of May to discuss what we should do, and the options were one of two. Either we ask for an extension and set a specific date, or we allow the committee for the time being to lapse, and once there's clarity, then we will re-establish the committee. The issue was brought to the Programming Committee, and we took a decision of the committee to lapse, because there's no clarity at the moment with regard to what's going to happen. During the process moment, the committee is busy with physical meetings where we interact with the public. We've already completed written submissions. We are now in the process of physically meeting in meetings which are currently not allowed in terms of the regulations and the COVID reality. So that's why we agreed last week to allow the committee to lapse, and the committee did lapse. With all respect, to my surprise yesterday at the Chief Whip, suddenly we find a proposal that the committee will now be revived. That was not discussed prior to the Chief Whips Forum with any of the whips that I'm aware of. The problem is the following. Exactly the same problem that the Ad Hoc Committee and the Programming Committee had last week, that we have no clarity in terms of a date, still exists. We don't know what the position is going to be. But yesterday, the ANC insisted that we proceed and reinstate the committee. My problem is, It makes Parliament look a little bit silly, with all due respect. We took a decision last week, we informed the public, it was reported in the press, and we gave sound reasons why that was the case. If you look at the rule that deals with the establishment of committees, Rule 253 of the rules, it clearly states that the resolution must have a specific date, a time frame for the committee to complete its work. The problem was that we don't have such a date. So even the proposed resolution yesterday did not give a date because of that exact problem. So during the discussion, suddenly a date was sucked from the air and said, let's do the 30th of October. There's nothing that the committee can do at present in terms of taking its program further. So we would strongly not support a resolution. And if there was clarity yesterday that all the parties accept that at some stage we will have to revive the committee will be reinstated with all the powers, and it will take into consideration all the work that was done and continue and complete its work. But if we now want to just revive the committee and take a thumbsuck date that has not been discussed with anybody in the committee or in terms of the program of anybody else, then we are just, as far as I'm concerned, creating a bad impression of how Parliament functions, and we would not support that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
The Honourable Sam?
Yeah, thank you very much, Honourable Speaker.
Speaker, can you please note me as well? I've asked on the hand raising, and then I wrote.
I wasn't even aware. I saw your name and then it went. Ntate Shibambo, you are noted.
Okay, and SWAT.
Linda, Speaker.
After Ntate Singh, I have Ntate Julius. I've got Ntate Shibambo.
And SWAT, please.
Now Ntate Medlakude, Ntate Swart.
And Koornhof, please.
Okay, Ntate Swart, Ntate Koornhof. Okay.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, as I said earlier on, and I want to say now, and I said yesterday, we are not opposed to the re-establishment of the Section 25 Committee. In fact, it's a given that we must re-establish, and that is why we took a very considered decision just 7 days ago that we should disestablish and re-establish when we have more information on more or less when the committee will be able to complete its work. But to have been sprung with a date yesterday and a motion which says, well, 30th October, took us all by surprise. And I've had to consult with my member on that committee. And he, right from the very beginning, said 30th October is not attainable. It is not a realistic date. However, our compromise would be, if it's possible, that we say that the committee must report on or a date before possibly, say, February 2021. That will give us enough time, give the committee enough time to see how things go. If they complete the work, if the members of the committee complete the work and they're satisfied that they have a report that complies with all constitutional requirements and mandates and consultation processes, they can bring that report to the House before that end date. But to just spring us with a date, 30th October, is really something that we cannot support that motion if it comes up on the order paper as the 30th of October for now. But we're prepared to look at a later end date, and they could report on or before that particular date. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Ntate Julius. Are you on this Section 25? And Ntate Julius seems to have a problem with connection.
Thank you, Madam President. If you would of the dates of the President and the Deputy President, I don't want to get into the debate. I think the view on this was made very clear by the Chief of the Official Opposition on this. And so I would like to come back, or would you allow me now to...
We are on Section 25, sir. Section 25, the ad hoc committee.
I will come back later if you allow it, Chair, then I would...
All right. Ntate Shibambo, can you hear us?
Yes, I can
Please
hear
take the
you,
floor.
Speaker. Yeah. And apologies, I won't be able to sustain both video and audio and still be on proper connection. So we'll proceed. I'm sure I'm clear now. Yes.
You are clear.
Yeah. Speaker, the ad hoc committee has been established to amend Section 25 of the Constitution, and as part of that process, was meant to do public consultations, and that is ongoing, but also to then get submissions from different members of the community who would make written submissions, and we're in the process of choosing who must come to appear to make submissions. So that process can proceed, but the committee has to be re-established. And in terms of the rules of the National Assembly, you can't re-establish a committee without a date. And we're saying now, and we agreed yesterday in the Chief Whips Forum, and the DA and Freedom Front are expressing their disagreement to understand. We agreed yesterday in the Chief Whips Forum. Let us set the date of the 30th of October, and mandate the committee to exhaust all mechanisms to fulfill all the functions that it is supposed to fulfill. And if it can't, it will then come back to us to say that within this period we cannot, and then we'll then engage in the same process again to say that it was physically impossible for you to consolidate all the work. But I'm sure that there can be exhaustive measures that can be discussed in the committee of what else do we do to make sure that we do not leave anyone out of this consultation process, and we consider all the views that are going to be made in terms of the submission, because there must be an end to this particular process. It has been postponed from the 5th Parliament. It is in the 6th Parliament now. We cannot keep on shifting the goalposts and everything else there. And also the other thing which is of consideration is that those who are always wanting to frustrate this process are those who are opposed to the amendment of Section 25 of the Constitution. So their proposal is not genuine. It's just an attempt to frustrate the process that would not conclude on what is the position on Section 25 of the Constitution. So let us deliberate on it. We have agreed about it yesterday. 30 October, the committee, if they struggle, will come back to then say that we have been unable to do it in a most appropriate way. But thus far, we can then be able to then take up in the other committee an issue of how do we conclude this issue within that particular time frame. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Lakude, you're next.
Speaker, I thought
Thank you, honorables. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we support the re-establishment of this committee. As parliamentarians or as Chief Whips Forum, we consult each other on the program of Parliament, knowing very well that we are operating on under these anomalous circumstances. We agree on a program of Parliament that we will have sittings up to, we proceed with our work up to the 30th of June. That's what we agreed upon. We extend. Yes, we don't know what will happen next week. We don't know what will happen at the end of June. We don't know. So like Honorable Shibambu said, when we re-establish the committee, we attach a date. The ad hoc committee is established by the House, and they are given a mandate by the House, and a date is attached in that regard. So we are saying, Honorable Speaker, the re-establishment of this ad hoc committee will allow the committee to proceed with the work, as Honorable Shibambu has alluded to. And we understand the committee is left with 2 provinces to do public hearings. And we know that under the circumstances, they are unable to do the public hearings. But we cannot re-establish a committee not attaching a date. And we cannot re-establish this committee without us bearing in mind that we are operating under these circumstances of COVID-19. So we will support the date proposed, and also to say that if there are difficulties for the committee to proceed with its work at the end of October, we will come back. That is what we usually do. We will come back for an extension. We will come back and consult each other. And consulting each other, Honorable Speaker, doesn't mean that we always agree. If we don't agree, Honorable Speaker, or one party doesn't agree or two parties doesn't agree, it doesn't mean that we will stuck. We will still proceed with the work of Parliament. There are mechanisms that will take a decision on our behalf if the NAPC is unable to do that. That is our take, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That what?
Thank you, Speaker. Now, firstly say that it's not helpful to say that certain people are trying to frustrate this process or are not genuine. I think we're all trying to abide by the rules, understanding a very difficult situation with coronavirus and the possible difficulty of completing this process. We from the SABC side have got a concern about the 31st of October, and I thought what Mr. Singh proposed was eminently reasonable, given the uncertainty that we are faced with, and I would, from our perspective, support a date being beyond 31 October, understanding what the Deputy Chief Whip of the ANC says, that we do need a date, but to understand the uncertainties, it must be balanced with the severe uncertainties and the unknown factor. And so possibly that date of February or even at the end of this year would be probably more reasonable, given that we'd be out of the winter season then, and there'd be a lot more clarity around the coronavirus. So that is our perspective. We do not support the 31st of October. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Kuranov.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, this motion in front of... Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Dr. Kuranov, you have the floor.
Thank you, Speaker. The three motions that is on the floor for discussion, we agreed on the two, and this one on the section 25. For me, it is a procedural and about the NA rules, and also not to create uncertainty. It's exactly to create certainty. So if I go through the motion, the first one is, I think there's general agreement this ad hoc section 25 committee must be re-established, and this is clearly in the motion. Secondly, it says it instructs the committee to incorporate in its work the proceedings and all the work of the previous committees or the committee up to and including the 29th of May 2020. And I think if I listen to the discussion, there's general agreement on that as well. The only disagreement is the deadline. Now, in terms of the NA rules 253, it says set time frames for one, the completion of any steps in performing the task, and the completion of the task. So the only outstanding decision is then the date in terms of the NA rules to be established. And yesterday, a date was proposed 5 months later, because we don't know what the situation will be about the pandemic that we have. But if you have to mention a date, and this date can only be decided by this body that we're in now, the NAPC. Once that date is mentioned in the motion, it is up to the committee then to meet, and if they see this is totally unrealistic, come back in September or earlier and to say, no, this date cannot work. We kindly ask you, Speaker, to extend this date, or we propose a new date. But we cannot have this draft motion just hang in the air. It'll create uncertainty on both sides of the argument. And I think this is not a party political issue that we're taking here. This is about the procedure, it's about the NA rules, it's about the important Section 25 committee. And the moment we pass this draft resolution, I think we create more certainty and not uncertainty. So the only outstanding issue for this platform to decide on the date. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other view on this matter of the Section 25? We agree on everything else except. Is there a voice that is coming through?
Yes, it's Member Papo.
Ntate Papo, you have the floor.
I thought Member Mento was going to speak because I saw she wanted to say something.
Okay, I can't see her. I'm sorry.
The proposal by Member Singh that we should consider a date beyond end of October, it's something I think I would appeal for all the political parties to consider. Member Swart has already agreed that that proposal, that compromise proposal, should be considered. So I think we left with the situation where the majority, many of the parties agree on revival of the resuscitation of a committee, and the issue is now whether October or beyond October. And Member Singh said we should consider February because the problem with the end of the year may be when the year ends, the work of Parliament, that it may create a lapse again, and then we have to reconsider it. So there are two other options: either the end of the parliamentary year program this year, November, or end of beginning of December or February. So I think the issue now is whether we should opt for either October or end of the parliamentary year, or the proposal of members seeing for February already, which ACDP has supported. So I think we should look at that. Obviously, an opposition completely because of October would create a bit of uncertainty, as Member Dr. Koronov is saying. We resuscitate, and political parties which have got views on expropriation, those views, fine, they cannot be forced to accept expropriation. They can still retain that. But I think we need to create some certainty on the process in the country, because the issue of expropriation, amendment, has got implications for a whole range of other things. So when people are certain that where the process is, how it may actually be concluded, it actually helps assist the country to have some form of policy development certainty. So I would appeal that we look at the options of that we should consider the option of the end of the year with a proviso that the committee itself will approach the office of the speaker so that the NAPC can look at what is possible and in terms of that work. The last option will be that of Member Singh of February. So I think we need to move, but the proviso that an assessment of practical work for the remaining two provinces and the consolidation of the report be done through the committee, indicating that to the House through the NAPC first.
Thank you. Mente Ndate Hope was your advocate. Are you on the platform? Are you still wanting to speak? I'm sorry, I didn't see you earlier. Please, if you want the floor.
Good morning, Speaker, and thank you very much. Now, I've sent the message before the DP spoke, so it was transmitted much later. I'm covered. I'm fine, Speaker.
You are covered.
But I wanted to also speak on the matter of committees. It's fine, close the Section 25. I will come back on the committee work, which is programmed.
Okay, honorable members, it seems that we must find a way of finding each other on the re-establishment of Section 25, the ad hoc committee. What I hear is that there is agreement that the committee does need to be resuscitated and re-established. What we do not agree on is the date. Now, I do know that we would need to find each other very carefully on this one. We don't want to set out an impression that we really want to throw away the work that was done. And we do not want to, some of us who are not sitting on the ad hoc committee, do not want to even get to interpret or to do whatever. So I suggest that you, especially Honorable Papo, gave a number of options to look at. Is it possible that you could give me and Ndate Chisa Tsenudi space for this afternoon to consider this matter and communicate? Whichever way we will go, we will communicate as fast as possible, whether we think that there is merit in looking at the three options, whether we need to do a little bit more consultation with all the other parties who may not have had their voices in this meeting today, whether we actually think that we should proceed with the 30th or look at any other date between October and February as per the recommendations of Ntate Swart. Just give us space to confer until this afternoon and come back to this collective. I promise that we will do that. Whatever it is that we want is to have a parliament that is robust in how it deals with its differences, but that always puts the South African population first. So we would try to come up and come back to you with that spirit. Can we be given just that period?
Speaker agreed. Good proposal.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, we agree.
Speaker Swart here. Just to say that there's nothing to prevent the committee reporting back.
That is what you are not audible.
Noise.
Yes, there is some noise that is coming through.
Another one. Just to say that I think the various options should be considered, but there's nothing to prevent the committee reporting before that date that is set. Even if one puts the end of this year or February, the committee could finish its work beforehand of its own accord. Doesn't mean it has to report by that. But I thank you for the approach, and we would support a later date so that it would be good if all of us as parties would support the re-establishment of the committee, understanding our own different political views, but particularly at this stage, just the re-establishment of the committee. Thank you.
Okay, I hear you.
Speaker.
Medla Kute, and I think is it Ntate Kurinov?
Yes.
Mkhalipi, please.
And then Floyd as well.
Honorable Floyd, you are number 4. In that order, please. It's Medla Kute, Ntate Kurinov, Mkhalipi, Ntate Shibambu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. We appreciate your proposal and we agree with it. Thank you.
Speaker, I formally propose that we accept your suggestion. Thank you.
Okay. The next person.
Speaker, it's Mkhalipi.
Ma'am Khalipi, we've got some disturbing noise like blowing wind coming in.
Yeah, I can hear.
Yes.
Yes. No, I just want to get a clarity from you in your summary. Are you saying that you must be given a chance today and this issue will be debated again on the next programming committee? Or are you going to communicate with all political parties today? Just that small clarity, Speaker.
I think I want to do a very simple thing. I want to confer with the Deputy Speaker. I want to after our conferring, we want to, if we get in touch, we get in touch with the parties today still, and so that by tomorrow we know which way we are going. So we'd want to have just a small meeting with the two of us, how we take this matter forward, and then come back to you today. So that by tomorrow we are clear whether we, the presiding officers, think that there is merit in renegotiating the date, the deadlines, or whether we go with the deadline or whether we go any other way. So we're not closing the door, we just want to discuss.
Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker.
Yes, ma'am.
My apologies, Honorable Speaker. Can we maybe request that Mr. Tasso, if possible now, check rule number 210?
Okay.
And read
rule number 210.
Yes, please.
Is that it, Tasso?
Madam Speaker, rule number 210 reads as follows. If consensus cannot be reached on a question before the program committee, a decision on the question may be taken at the meeting or subsequently by the chief whip with the concurrence of the speaker and the leader of government business if it's a matter that affects government, in accordance with Rule 44. Now, Rule 44 says that such a decision would have to be communicated to the parties on the program committee. So I take it that, Speaker, the consultations are in terms of Rule 10 that you're going to be making.
Yeah. Matt Lakute, are you done?
Yes, I'm done, Honorable Speaker. I think in your consultation we should consider those two rules as read by Mr. Tasso. Thank you.
Thank you for that. But can we now take the last person I had was Ndate Shibambo?
Okay, thanks.
I see Ndate Mulder.
Thanks, Speaker. Like, if we give, it's only 2 provinces that are remaining, and the committee can have deliberations in terms of how do we, without compromising the health of the people, finalize these consultations. And then there are issues that we must deal with of the actual bill, because there's a bill that needs a certain time frame which must be tabled, that must be deliberated upon, that must get submissions as well in terms of how do we phrase the now amended Section 25 of the Constitution. The February proposal doesn't make sense because in December there's no parliament, in January there's no parliament, and parliament mostly opens in mid-February, and so the February proposal is just a waste of time. It's just another delay tactic. And there is a possibility that if we give a clear mandate to the committee now to say that develop the most adequate and proper responsive mechanism to complete your work within this parliamentary term, we will be able to discuss the different mechanisms in the committee, in the ad hoc committee, and then say this is what we're going to do within the appropriate time, so that we do not every time roll over the same issue, which otherwise there is majority consensus on in terms of what should happen. So let's have a date this term, not a date of February, which doesn't make sense, because it's not like there's going to be anything meaningful that is going to happen in the December, January, and even half February period, which is being proposed. It doesn't make sense.
Ndate Mulder?
Yes, ma'am. Luckily, it's not as simple as the Honourable Floyd Chivambu tries to tell us. It's much more complicated than that. We are dealing with a process to amend the Constitution of the Republic. If we go through that process, we must make sure that we do not make any procedural mistakes. The fact is the committee cannot proceed with any deliberations or any discussions on any substance until we've completed the process of public consultation. Now, it's not that simple that we can just find a different...
What you have just said is not true, though.
Differently.
Honorable Shibambo, the member is on the floor. Ndate Mulder?
Yes, it's not that simple that we can find a way just to treat 2 provinces differently from the other provinces. We are very much aware of the two rules that the Honourable Dlakude referred to. We can have a majority decision taken today, that's fine. But I'm under the impression that Madam Speaker made a proposal and asked time to consult. It was formally proposed by Dr. Koornhof, and I think it's only reasonable to give the presiding officers a time to reflect, and we will wait what their decision is. That's my proposal. Thank you, ma'am.
Honourable
Thank
Speaker.
you. Honourable Singh?
Yes, Honourable Speaker, I asked earlier, but I just want to agree with the way forward as you proposed. But to clarify the position that I put in front, it was to report on or before February 2021. It gives us enough time to deal with the COVID situation. If they complete in September, why shouldn't they report? I mean, that's the question I'm asking. So I'm leaving it at that, but in the hands of the presiding officers. Thank you.
Okay. Honourable members, give us the space for today. We will take into considerations the two rules quoted to us, Rule 210. I didn't think we are at the state where we really need to take this matter at a mediation level with the leader of government business. I thought it might be something that we can quickly resolve. And if you want to have a second bite virtually on the rules, but let us have this conferring. Let us then come back to you. If we have to go the route of Rule 210, we will also tell you after we have conferred that we are taking it there. But as much as possible, I would have wanted to see us united on this matter, all of us. So if you agree and it has been proposed and seconded, we will take into consideration Dlakude Rule 210 and Rule 44. Thank you very much. Can we then proceed to any other matter that we may have had to deal with in item number 7 that we have not exhausted? Memente.
Singh.
Memente, Ndate Singh. Ndate Mulder. Mazoni.
Swart.
Swart and Ndate Julius.
Mente.
Mente, you're number 1, Dlakude. Mente, you were the first to be recognized.
Oh, thank you, Speaker.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I don't know if Honourable Member Frolik, as the one who's responsible for committees, have looked into an issue of a physical oversight, in particular for this term of COVID-19, where most of procurement is done on the emergency basis. And I want to caution that we should not be found complicit to the illegal acts which many departments are now committing in terms of procurement. Yesterday, we had to deal with the issue of the Bait Bridge in Scopa, where it is clear that there has been a fraud and corruption committed by either the department and the service provider, and the purchasing of the fence thereof was of the worst kind, and it did not even give value for money. Now, I want to know if we have provision for an oversight, physical oversight of such projects, where we as members of parliament, we are going to be satisfied in terms of the quality work that's done compared to what the Auditor General and the Treasury are going to be providing at a later stage on audits of the finances. We must also understand that there are special instructions that are issued by Treasury in terms of how do we use these emergency procurement processes, but the accountability thereof of these processes are done either after 10 days, and a full report by a department is required after 30 days. I just want to share an experience of yesterday, where the Auditor General and the Treasury are also investigating the same matter, and the matter was emanating from an instruction of the President and the Minister that the border of between Limpopo and Zimbabwe must be protected. Therefore, there should be a fence erected there. Then this particular project was then as a result of that instruction. However, how it was constituted is plain corruption, where money was wasted, but the fence is not there. And members of parliament will be complicit to crime if we just agree with what is on paper, but we are seeing the pictures of that the fence is no longer even existing, which was just erected a couple of days ago. The money has been spent. We had to stop the payment, further payments on the project, but we have no clue of what we are talking about in terms of physical evidence as members of parliament. So my concern is that, do we have a level of comparison in terms of what we know and in terms of what is spent, and measure that to what the Auditor General and the Treasury Office will be tabling to different committees and to appropriations and the SCOPA. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The Honorable Mulder.
Please recognize
you are
me,
listening.
Speaker. Please recognize me, Speaker, as Ma'am Kalipi.
Ma'am Kalipi, I'll recognize you later. I've got a list. Mtate Mulder.
Yes, ma'am. It's just with regard to the program. I asked the question if there's an indication if the President and the Deputy President will be in the House or will they participate virtually. Thank you.
Okay. We'll check on that, Mtate Mulder. The two councillors will facilitate that, but we will also be following up on that. Member Zoni?
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, I wonder if we could, as soon as possible, get an indication of who will be in the House physically, so that we can ensure that our members are informed duly as to whether or not they can be in the House. Because as Honourable Klasso, well, Mr. Klasso just told us, the DA will have 19 members allowed in the House, presuming the other parties take up their particular seats. So, of course, last time, as you know, we were 20 and we can be more. So we would like to know, as a matter of urgency, how many more members we could have in the House if the other parties aren't going to be using their allocation of seats. That will be very helpful. Then, Speaker, I do think we need to be aware of the fact that we didn't have EPCs. And there was a very good reason for not having the EPCs. So I do think that we must be very aware to the fact that parties must be allowed to air concerns during declarations. So while on Friday I understand that there wouldn't be a declaration because we will allow for that on the 12th of June, and I believe Mr. Kaso accidentally said the 12th of May, but I believe he meant the 12th of June. We must make sure that members are, we give Mr. Castle the members who will be making declarations, and whether they'll be physically in the House or whether they'll be on the Zoom platform, so that there are no interruptions, because those declarations are going to be very important, because it will be the only opportunity parties have to voice their opinion on the budget. Thanks.
Thank you. That is what?
Thank you, Speaker. I also wanted to just raise the issue of the declarations and being clarified by Honourable Mazzoni to a certain degree that there will be declarations. I would also suggest that the two justice bills, that they are separate issues, and important issues arising from Constitutional Court decisions, and that they should have declarations, not debates on each, but I would not advise that they should be joined. Then I appreciate what Honourable Mente has just raised. Very important separate issue, and that is ties in with our oversight of COVID-19 expenditure. And I raised this issue during the question time with the Minister of Culture, Honourable Minister Dlamini Zuma, and the possibility of real-time audits by the Auditor General. So that illustration of Honourable Mentor is of a problem that came up. Scopa was able to stop it, but it was historical expenditure. We need to look as Parliament to how we can enforce real-time auditing, where the executive has indicated they are looking into that, particularly with present expenditure, and then more importantly, with the extensive expenditure that will be incurred with the adjustment appropriation bill of almost 500 billion rand. We will need strenuous oversight, and we really need real-time auditing to exercise that oversight. So I think that's a very important point. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honourable Julius.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just to come back on the point of
you are now for the first time very clear today.
Thank you, Madam. Just to come back on that, it's not a matter of just try to complicate matters. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because we have a serious challenge in terms of dates for the President and the Deputy President. We've been talking about this for a very long time. Now, I have a serious challenge in this, Madam Speaker. You cannot be making statements, and I appreciate Honourable Frolik's answering of your question, but just to say that something was never done doesn't mean that it cannot be done. It doesn't mean that it cannot be changed. I have a very serious problem with that because we're coming into Parliament, other people come into Parliament. We're not only honourable members, but we also have a duty to improve the systems of Parliament. And we have a serious challenge. We must all acknowledge that we have a problem with dates of the President and the Deputy President. We cannot just leave it away and say it was never done. I never tried to compel the Speaker's office to give us something in writing today. I really ask you to confirm whether 2 weeks ago you said that it was very writing and you answered me on that. I'm very happy with it, but I'm not satisfied with the process going forward, Madam Speaker, stuck in the same place. We are honourable, and I trust you. I think I value your commitment to hold the executive accountable. I think you're one of these people that really does that. But here, can I make a formal proposal, Speaker? That every programming committee, program committee.
Deputy Julius, hold on. We've got interference. We've got some interference from somewhere. Can it be sorted out, please? Please proceed, Deputy Julius.
Thank you, Speaker. Can I make a formal proposal that we have it as a standard item on every programming committee when we get to the item of parliamentary program, that we get some form of feedback from your office on the questions for Deputy President and President. If it's not from your office, it can be communicated to the necessary people that will give us the program on the day. And then we can continue, because we do have challenges. We have to acknowledge that we do have challenges in terms of dates for Deputy President and President. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. Deputy Julius, I think we've discussed this matter. I accept that there were challenges, but every time a date had to be postponed or one of them was not there, we came back, we told you the reasons why. I hear that that concern is persisting, and I'm saying that we have undertaken to do what is necessary. I hear what you say when you say we must all be honorable, and that we must have trust between all of us. When a date comes to the programming, it will come there because we are sure that there has been commitment. And I think what you are saying is actually that you want to be sure that we will not be given dates that will then disappear and be changed. And we are dealing with that. And we will make sure that when we have a date, unless there is serious illness or death, that the date must not be changed willy-nilly. So I think I want to, Ndate Frolik, you will be ready to respond to the other matters as the members were bringing them in, but we are noting. Medla Kude, you are next. Medla Kude.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me take this opportunity to thank you on your response with regard to the issues of the President and Deputy President's response to questions in the House. The principle or the norm has always been that the Speaker's office communicates with those officers and give us a report in the programming committee. So we really appreciate the work that the Speaker's office is doing, and we want to keep it that way. So, Honorable Speaker, on committee reports, we agree with the proposal that there should be no declarations. But when it comes to vote and schedules, parties will use their global time as per the votes they want to declare on. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Ma'am Kalipi.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, we are mindful of the fact that you are still processing the EFF proposal to move Parliament to Tshwane. And we have made a very progressive proposal, Madam Speaker, because of the reason that Western Cape is an epicenter. However, Speaker, I need to get a clarity in terms of the document that has been tabled here of 100 members in Parliament. We are upgrading from 50 members to 100 members. So your office, Speaker, must come very clean to say that you are opening Parliament. So I just want to get a clarity. These 100 members participating in Parliament is only for plenaries. What about committees? Are we still going to have committees through the virtual platform? Because to me, it does not make sense. As Honorable Mente, the National Chairperson of the EFF, was asking in terms of the oversight as well. So the presentation that we received yesterday at the Chiefs Forum, it also focuses on the opening of Parliament, particularly on the staff members, which will be 30%. But on the aspect of members of Parliament is not clear if this 100 that it seems as if is going to be a way forward as from now, it only talks for plenaries, and it means that a person who is not residing in Western Cape must go to Parliament in the epicenter in the Western Cape to attend a plenary and go back home, and also have a committee meeting virtually. So if you can get that clarity on that issue, Madam Speaker, I'll be very glad, and hoping that you are going to consider our firm proposal very soon, Madam Speaker.
Okay, the last person is Ndate Singh.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Just on the last issue, thank you very much for inviting comments from political parties. And I think you will respond after you get those comments. I am discussing it at my caucus, and I'd really like to be excused at 10:45 to join caucus, which I'm late already. But hopefully we can get clarity for the 9th of June on the declarations. Is it going to be limited time per party like we normally do sometimes, or is it going to be 49 minutes per bill that has been tabled for that day? The other clarity we need at some stage is a third term start date, which a question asked by Honorable Julius earlier on. And lastly, I think, Honorable Speaker, it'll be fair for us at some stage to have tabled the report drawn up by the staff and tabled on the virtual session of the 27th. We discussed it at length at the Chiefs Forum, but I think for the records of this meeting, and because it's arising from minutes, it should be tabled and we can talk about it next week. It was a very comprehensive report. So that clarity that I would need on times and third term. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Speaker, I had my hand.
Oh, Ndate Papo, is that you?
I think, Speaker, I'm glad that you have responded to this insinuation around the president and the deputy president not committing, because every time there was a genuine reason, this committee got reasons and accepted those reasons. There's also an insinuation the deputy president was not there. The deputy president has done all the work of government all the work of the political parties since the lockdown started. But there's been this insinuation the deputy president is not doing anything, is dodging parliament, which is completely wrong. And I think I wanted to put it on in the public platform that the deputy president has been doing government work, cabinet work, everything he's supposed to do, attended all meetings. So the insinuation that people are dodging or something like that is not correct. And dates are negotiated because you also insist that dates must be given, and you understand that if there are other government responsibilities and so on. So I just found this whole innuendo not correct, because we work with you. We try and develop dates which suit both parliament and the executive. And there's a commitment even in the next term that the dates will be there. And in fact, already we're starting to look at those dates even before your letter arrives.
Thank you very much for that, Ntate Papu. Ntate Frolik, Ntate Kaso, the responses, please.
Yes, thank you, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, may I say that in terms of...
Just a while, and Ntate Kaso, when you speak to the 100 being in the chamber for the next sitting, talk to it in relation with the regulations and where we find ourselves as Parliament. Please continue.
Now, Speaker, in terms of oversight, we are led by the regulations that are in place. Physical oversight in terms of oversight visits is determined by the regulations. There are 3 committees that have, under very difficult conditions, succeeded in doing oversight, even though it was not the full complement of the committees. The committees are social development. They went to the Gauteng head office of SASSA, Home Affairs, who visited the Lindela Repatriation Center, and they also conducted oversight about the refugee issues in Cape Town. And then currently the Health Committee, they have split up in the different provinces where the members of the committee from the NA and NCOP are located, and they're doing oversight in smaller groups. Those applications have been approved. We are busy in discussions to see how we can broaden that. And it's really upon the request. The Transport Committee, for instance, have also requested, now that the relaxations in the regulations are there, that they could possibly undertake oversight in terms of what PRASA is doing and so forth. So the short answer for each case is possible. We are led by the importance of that oversight visit, and that informs the decision, but also by the parliamentary program. And currently, as a parliamentary program stands there, it says that we'll go into a constituency period at the end of June. So we will do the necessary consultations, but by all means, if the regulations allow for oversight to take place, it will happen. Secondly, Speaker, in terms of committee meetings in Parliament, we are not at that point yet, because members are all over the country. If a member is in Cape Town and they want to use a virtual connection and want to go and sit in a committee room in Cape Town, by all means they can go and do that. But at this stage, it is not something that is immediately possible. We are also waiting on a report from IT to see how a committee meeting will work when those members are in a committee room specifically, keeping in mind the connection difficulties we have, and then also those who are on a virtual platform. So at this, in the immediate future, Speaker, we cannot foresee that committee meetings will take place in Parliament. We are once again led and informed by the regulations that are in place in terms of the number of people that can be in one room or in one meeting facility.
Okay, Ndate Kasa?
Madam Speaker, in terms of the declarations next week on Tuesday, the 45 minutes is per item. And my understanding is that...
45 or 49?
49, sorry, 49 minutes per item. And my understanding is that there will be declarations on the 3 items only. The 3 bills, social assistance, the Tool Justice Bill, and maybe on the ICASA. and that rules committee there will not be declarations and no declarations on the motions. In terms of the 100 members, Madam Speaker, I have legal services here to also assist on the issue of the regulations, but the emphasis, as we understood it, is that it is up to 100 members. That's number one. Secondly, we had clarified previously that the 50%, the threshold of 50 for gatherings does not apply to Parliament and to members of Parliament. So it's up to 100 members, and the understanding was that Parliament would take an incremental approach to this. So we started with 50, and now would move to the next level. It could end up being 70 members, 60 or 80, but you have the allowance for 100 members to be able to sit in the chamber. But Advocate Adikari, you want to come in on with your permission, Madam
Please
Speaker?
come in. I want absolute clarity on this matter.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and good morning to the honourable members and to yourselves. Mr. Frolick largely covered the issue, and these are mostly practical considerations. Mr. Kass is correct. The gatherings are excluding workplaces, so the restriction is not on workplaces. There's a number of protocols that are required, such as social distancing. The Level 3 regulations does provide expressly for oversight without any restrictions on numbers, providing that the protocols can be adhered to. Thank you, Speaker.
Okay. Had you finished that Castle?
I am finished, ma'am. Thank you.
Speaker,
There is a matter which is raised very sharply, and I know that in that day, Frolick responded to it about quick and strategic oversight on the procurement processes of COVID-19. I think we must also remember that whatever happens, fortunately for us, the AG has just been given teeth. I do understand that they have been taking trials on just how effective their new teeth are as the AG's office. But let us hope that, in fact, as Parliament, we will stand right behind the AG when matters that need to be referred to for prosecution and for whatever stand. And we will not be looking at faces, we'll be looking at facts between us and amongst us. So let's find a way of making sure that we robustly deal with the COVID-19 issues, because we don't want the after effects. We should be looking at a way of attending, not only from Scopa side, that should have been the preoccupation of the Joint Standing Committee of Defence and the Police, to see to it that, and Home Affairs to see to it that they actually are approaching you on a way to get to physically go towards these borders and to look at what is happening there. I think we should be looking at that so that permits are processed and we can do. And it does not have to be a whole committee. Committees, even at times where we don't have national disaster, have always and done work and trusted that we're all honorables in the meeting. So I think that we should get along and do what we can for this country. Honorable members, is there any other matter that we have not dealt with on this item? Remember that we still have to come back to you, Ntate and I, by today. Is there any other matter?
Honourable Speaker, is Honourable Hendricks here?
Ntate Hendricks, welcome. Take the floor.
Yeah, I always sit in a meeting, but I never ask a question. It is my understanding that in a workplace you are allowed meetings of only up to 50. So Parliament is regarded as a workplace. So meetings, in my view, is also restricted to 50. However, if we are saying we are working and not having a meeting, maybe we can go to the 100. I don't know. That's up to the legal people to decide. The second issue is I did post on the chat that Dr. Henny Norki, who is a world expert on diabetes, has asked me to inform you and Parliament that those who are diabetics must definitely stay at home, especially in the Western Cape, after the Premier has issued a report and asked their advice. And then they're also talking about that those of us who are over 50, which unfortunately includes yourself, Honorable Speaker, although you look much younger, that we must take a lung vaccine. I don't know what that is, but that's going to cost 1,000 Rand. And I believe the medical aid is not paying for it. So I'm just sharing that with the committee. And I thought I'll use this opportunity to say something, because I haven't spoken in these meetings for many weeks.
Yes, sir. Honorable Hendricks, thank you very much for that information. One, I am on record, honorable members, that I shall not force any member of parliament who has comorbidities or who, for whatever reason, feels that their life will be on the line in going where they shouldn't be going, who want to keep safe and keep home. Because yes, we are contracted, we represent the people, but we should make sure also that the workplace is safe and that members don't come to work with doubts that they are along the way going to be put under whatever. So in the numbers that we want to see will be the numbers of those who are very clear that they are not putting themselves at risk. Secondly, we have undertaken that we will make sure that all the requirements to keep Parliament safe and clean and not put us in any danger will be done. We will repeat what we did in the last sitting. We will hope that we will continue improving even outer, so that we deal with the whole perimeters. Earlier on, I was asked about the response. Yes, Ma'am Kalipi, I still have to respond. As Dade Singh reminded me, I'm still waiting for parties to actually give us their views before I respond on the issue of Parliament going to Pretoria. So we will respond, honourable members. We hope, honourable members, that there is complete clarity, Mayor Adhikari, on the issue of 100 people at work, 100 people gathering, the difference between gathering and people at work. We need to be dealing with that, because last week we actually, between myself and the chief whip of the majority, actually entered into that space with the executive leading COVID-19. We would have to double check, because the response we got was different from what Advocate Adhikari is giving us. But let's take another one. I have learned that with lawyers, you always take a second opinion. Just to be on the safe side, we will do that. But if we need to have more than 100 or 100, we'll make sure that, one, we do not offend the public who are still forced to gather at 50. And if we gather at 100 and we can extend the numbers in such a way that we still respect the regulations, I would be happy. And there are many ways we can do that. So let us just say that we will make sure that we do everything that we need to do to make sure that we do our work as efficiently as possible, but we do not put anybody at risk. And yes, I do not expect any member who has vulnerabilities to be forced to expose themselves to get to Parliament. I don't. Members should not feel they are blackmailed into going and risking their lives to Parliament if they know that their health would not agree. So I want to be very clear about that one. Members we all have consciences. We do not want to be paid for not doing work, but we are not asking you to risk your lives. Honorable members, that's where I will take it. Is there any other matter that we need to consider? Can we go to announcement? Does any member have an announcement? None. No. I announce that we close this meeting and hope that all of you are still in good health and you are keeping yourselves safe and making those families happy who hardly
Thank you very
see
much,
us.
Speaker.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
very
much.
much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Speaker.
Speaker.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Speaker.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mabroto. Look after yourself.
Let me the man.
Ra leboga.